Welcome to this explainer. If you're a focused learner looking to truly master the intricacies of IT infrastructure, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're tackling one of the most persistent and, frankly, frustrating mysteries in modern data centers. Why do seemingly healthy, well-provisioned virtual machines sometimes run incredibly sluggishly? We're going to decode the complex relationship between server virtualization and storage and figure out how to finally tame the beast known as the I/O blender.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to cover the hidden storage bottleneck, traditional database workload profiles, the virtualization difference, measuring storage performance, and finally, optimizing virtual storage. Section 1. The hidden storage bottleneck. Let's set the stage with a scenario you're probably all too painfully familiar with. Picture this, it's 2 p.m. on a Friday, and you get an urgent ticket. A critical application is running at a complete snail's pace. You pull up your hypervisor dashboard, and the CPU usage looks totally fine. The memory? Barely breaking a sweat. So why on earth are your virtual machines running so sluggishly? It's completely maddening, right? Because the usual suspects, compute and RAM, are clearly innocent here. Well, here's the secret. CPU and memory are highly visible. They sit right there, front and center on your monitoring tools, looking perfectly normal. But storage? Storage is almost always the hidden, silent culprit behind poor performance in virtualized environments. While compute resources are a breeze to track, diagnosing storage issues requires a much deeper dive into disk latency, throughput, and IOPS to figure out what your VM is actually struggling with. So, consider this explainer your definitive, step-by-step guide to cracking that hidden storage bottleneck. We're going to unpack the science of virtual storage management, starting from the basic behavior of applications all the way up to some really clever hypervisor-specific optimizations. Section 2. Traditional database workload profiles. Before we can really grasp the chaos of virtualization, we've got to understand how dedicated applications normally behave. Let's look at a classic comparison. Online transaction processing, or OLTP, versus online analytical processing, OLAP. OLTP systems, like your core business databases, are incredibly transactional. Think rapid-fire, small, random I/O operations, usually around 16 kilobytes, and they are super latency sensitive. Even a microsecond's delay can ruin the user experience. On the flip side, we have OLAP workloads, like data warehouses. These guys are focused on complex queries over massive data sets. They're generating large sequential reads, sometimes up to 256 kilobytes. They don't care so much about latency. They are entirely throughput-driven. And this brilliantly illustrates why we typically handle these distinct needs differently at the operating system level. For these traditional, high-performance database demands, our sources note that the XFS file system is generally preferred over ext4. XFS is literally built for large-scale, high-performance environments. It lets admins tune block sizes and caching to perfectly match either an OLTP or OLEP profile on a dedicated physical server. Section 3. The virtualization difference. So, what actually happens to those nice, predictable, easily optimized workloads when you shove them into a shared virtual environment? Enter the I/O blender effect. Imagine you've got 4 virtual machines. One is doing those neat sequential OLAP reads. Another is doing small, punchy OLTP transactions. A third is just a file server. On dedicated hardware, the storage arrays saw completely predictable patterns. But in a virtualized setup, the hypervisor grabs all these distinct I/O streams, aggregates them, and basically drops them into a giant blender. What spits out the other side and hits your shared storage array is this chaotic, highly random workload. This blender effect is exactly why previously well-behaved sequential storage suddenly turns into an unpredictable bottleneck. Let's break down how this blender effect amplifies across different virtual workloads. General-purpose VMs have mixed characteristics, so they just need balanced performance. But look at database VMs. They demand high IOPS and need strict fault isolation so they don't get starved out by noisier neighbors. And then there's VDI, or Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. VDI generates ridiculously heavy random I/O. The defining challenge here is surviving the dreaded morning boot storm. You know, that massive spike in demand when hundreds or thousands of users all log into their virtual PCs at exactly 9 a.m. Section 4. Measuring storage performance. Now that we really understand the chaos of the virtualization blender, let's talk about the hard numbers you need to monitor to keep things running smoothly. So the crucial point is this specific threshold, less than 5 milliseconds. When you're analyzing data store or virtual disk performance, this is your strict benchmark for healthy read latency. It represents the end-to-end delay the VM actually experiences. If your read latency is under 5 milliseconds, your storage is responding quickly, and your VMs are going to feel incredibly snappy. For write latency, the threshold for acceptable performance is slightly higher, under 10 milliseconds. Writes just naturally take a bit longer to commit to persistent storage. However, our sources warn that if your write latency starts creeping up into that 10 to 30 millisecond range, you are officially in a warning state. And anything above 30 milliseconds? No way. That puts you in the critical danger zone. Application performance will noticeably degrade, and those support tickets are going to start flooding in for sure. But, latency is really only half the story. The other half is IOPS, or input-output operations per second. There is a massive disparity in storage demands depending on the VM. An idle VM might just sip 0 to 50 IOPS. A web server needs maybe up to 5,000, but a database server, it can easily demand anywhere from 2,000 to over 50,000 IOPS. This right here proves exactly why storage in a virtual environment cannot just be provisioned based on gigabytes of capacity alone. If you stick that 50,000 IOPS database on the same spinning disks as your general-purpose VMs, the I/O blender will absolutely obliterate your performance, regardless of how much free space you have left. Section 5. Optimizing Virtual Storage. Let's get into the final, actionable phase of this explainer, how to actually architect your way out of this mess. Based on our sources, here are a few structural best practices. First up, implement dynamic tiering. Virtual servers create these totally unpredictable I/O hotspots. Automated tiering ensures your absolute hottest, most frequently accessed data gets seamlessly moved to your fastest flash storage. Second, if you use thin provisioning to save space, you have to monitor it aggressively. Overcommitting storage can lead to an absolute catastrophe if everyone asks for their space all at once. And lastly, for those heavy database VMs we talked about, distribute their virtual disks, or VMDKs, across multiple data stores. This creates much-needed parallelism, utilizes multiple storage paths, and strictly isolates faults, which massively reduces I/O contention. Which leads us to our final thought today. As you look at your own infrastructure, I want you to ask yourself a hard question. Is your storage truly built for the actual demands of the application, or is it just acting as a generic dumping ground for the hypervisor? By really understanding workload profiles, tracking that latency, and isolating your heavy hitters, you absolutely can tame the I/O blender. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep on learning.